Tanur Rabbanan and Mem Aleph Amid Beis. Is that good? Tanur Rabbanan, it's about 8 lines, 7 lines from the bottom. Tanur Rabbanan started in a brisa. Achal tzli mi b'yidiyim. Someone ate roasted korban Pesach, but it was before nightfall. It's on the 14th. He's supposed to wait for the 15th by night to start eating. He ate it early. Now he ate it correctly. He ate it roasted. So he's chayev. We'll see in a moment what the pasuk is. Kazayis na mishachashecha. If he eats it raw, or we said no, I mean half raw, half roasted, medium. After dark, then he's also chayev. Okay, that's more obvious what the pasuk is for that. It says don't eat it. No. Ktani tzli dum yedina. Now it says it taught roasted similar to medium. Ma na balav, just like there's a negative prohibition that you're not allowed to eat it medium. It has to be fully roasted. Aftzli balav. Now also roasted, referring to before the zman, is also balav. Now bishleiman, we understand that there's a pasuk that says that you can't eat it medium. It can't be not fully cooked, because it says ksiv al techel menuna. It says don't eat it. Don't eat from it when it's raw, when it's not fully cooked. El etzlimi nalan. But where does it say that you can't eat it early? So it says the ksiv when it's roasted. The ksiv va'achlu asabasar b'layla azeh. So the answer is because it says in the pasuk you should eat from the flesh, from the meat on this night. B'layla in b'yayim lai. It says b'layla azeh on this night. That means only by night, not by day. The Gemara asks, it doesn't say not to eat it by day. You're telling me that it's a lav, it's a negative prohibition. What it really says is eat it by night. So that's a positive command. So a neglect of a positive command is a violation of a positive command, not a violation of a negative command. Anytime there's a positive command that you've neglected, so you violated you've neglected a positive command, that's not a violation of a negative command, that's a violation of a positive command. So Rav Chizda Amani Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Chizda says that this is referring to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Sounds like a very general discussion of if you neglect a positive command, what violation did you do? You didn't do the mitzvah, but was that a violation of a negative command? So we say, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, it's a negative violation. The Tanya was taught in Brisa. Shar v'seh sarua v'kalat. This is 2 types of mumim, of blemishes that could be in an animal that can't be brought as a sacrifice. Sarua is if one of the limbs is too big, the eye is bigger than the other, or there's another limb that's longer than the other. It's not symmetrical. The kalat is one is too short. It sounds like the same thing, right? Actually, kalat is that it's the hoofs are attached. Okay. So okay, as opposed to separated. Now, nidavatasai, that could be given as a gift. A gift meant that it's given to the Bedek Habayis, to the Beis Hamikdash, but it's not brought as a sacrifice. So nidavatasai, it could be given as a gift to the Bedek Habayis, to the temple upkeep. Oisai, such an animal that has a blemish. Atamatvis lebedek habayis. You can grasp it for the temple upkeep, for the donation. But if you designate an animal without a mum, then that has to be given as a sacrifice, not for temple upkeep. If it's a unblemished animal, then you're not supposed to designate it to sanctify it for temple upkeep. You're supposed to give it as a sacrifice. Mikan amru. Now from this pasuk we learned, if you do designate it for the temple upkeep and not for the sacrifice, you violated a positive command. The positive command was that something with a mum should be designated for the bedek habayis. You didn't do it. You designated something without a mum. Ainly say. So granted, you've neglected the positive command. You sanctified the wrong animal for the Bedek Habayis. How do you know that this is also a negative prohibition as well? So Talmud Leimar Vayedaber Shem al Moshe Leimar. Shem spoke to Moshe saying, that tells me, Limit al Kol Parshakula Shiye B'Leisase, Div Rabbi Yehuda. That tells me that the whole chapter is all a negative prohibition. Every law in that chapter is a negative prohibition. Where do you get that from? Amalei Rebbe LeBar Kapara my mashma. Rebbe asks Bar Kapara, where do you get that from? Where does Rabbi Yehuda get that from? That Vayedaber Shem al Moshe Leimar tells me that. The Ksiv Amar Loi, he says to him, the Ksiv, it says in the pasuk, Leimar, Loi Nemar Bidvarim. Leimar means say no. Say no to they put on the candies years ago. Say no to bringing sacrifices, to designating animals without a mum for the Bedek Habayis. Say no to that. Okay. A Rav Amri Leimar is Lav Amr. In the Yeshiva of Rav, they said Leimar is not to say no, but negative prohibition is this. Okay, it's a new pshat in Vayedaber Shem al Moshe Leimar, right? Someone told me the Skolya Rebbe, I think it was in Williamsburg, but he would give his drushes. He would ask the Chassidim to pick a pasuk in the parsha, and they would pick psukim, whatever. So one time they picked Vayedaber Shem al Moshe Leimar. It was like a trick. So anyway, he gave like an hour drush on. So what could you say on Vayedaber Shem al Moshe Leimar? Okay. So here we have a Leimar. Yeah, and according to Dikduk, there shouldn't be any issue because Vayedaber is like in general. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying the following. Chazal usually tell us that Leimar means that Moshe Rabbeinu is supposed to say it over to the Jewish people. And that's why by Aser Sedibris there's an issue. That if everyone was there, why does it say Leimar? So over there, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel, they say that they responded. The Jewish people responded. Al hein hein, al lav lav, whatever. Here we have a new pshat. Leimar means that there's a negative prohibition, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, Meitash Misha Shal Nachten. This was referring to the wastewater of the baker. It said we had to be poured out because it becomes chametz because he has dough that's from his hands or from his utensils. Tani chada sheifchen b'makom madrin. One brisa says that you have to pour it in a slope, so it gets washed away. Ve'in sheifchen b'makom mashperin. You don't pour it in a place where it gets collected. Tani yidach. Another brisa says sheifchen b'makom mashperin, that you pour it in a place where it gets collected. Surprising, it's a contradiction. Where says like kasha? Hana defishi the kavu. Ha delena fishi the like kavu. Depends how much water you're pouring. See, the ashbeiren somehow doesn't let the water sink into the ground, but if there's a little water, it will still sink in. So if it's a little bit of water, you can pour it in a place where it gets collected because that will seep into the cracks in the ground. If it's a lot of water, it's going to sit over there and then it's going to continue to leaven, and that's going to be an issue. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, Isha leitalash ella b'mayim shalanu. A woman should only need the dough with mayim shalanu. What does shalanu mean? To lon means to rest overnight. Shalanu means it rested overnight. Now it's a little confusing, that word, because shalanu also could mean hours. Shalanu, right? Shalanu. It's shel means of. It's of us. It's our water. Anyway, the pshat is that it meant that it was rested overnight. Darsha Rav Masna b'Pepunya. Rav Masna taught this in the city of Pepunya. L'machar aisikule alma chatzvayu vasal legabe. Everyone brought their jugs and they came to Rav Masna. He said, give us water. They understood that what he said was the kneading of the dough can only be with our water. So they come to Rav Masna with their jug and says, give us from your water. Amalahu, ana b'mayim debisu amri. I meant water that rested. Bas means to rest. Yeah. Yeah, when they do the model matzah bakery, so they always ask this question. You can only use mayim shalanu. What does mayim shalanu mean? And the kids say, well, if they know Hebrew, whatever, they say our water. But this is really dates back to the Gemara times. Yeah, Rav Masna was making a model matzah bakery. So, Darash Rava taught, Isha leitalish b'chama. A woman shouldn't knead the dough in the sun because it leavens in the sun.
Don't worry, I say no to drugs.
V'loi b'chame chama, and not with water that was heated in the sun. V'loi b'mayim agrufim min amulyar, and not with water that was raked out of a radiator. Mulyar is a copper or brass, bronze pot that goes over the stove, that goes over the fire, that has pipes coming out. So it's an old-fashioned radiator. The water that's left over there, even if the fire's not on, even if the fire's not on, Rashi says, but it still stays hot. She shouldn't take her hands away from kneading the dough until it's totally finished. The tricha or tzarich tricha shnei kelim. She needs two utensils. She puts water onto the dough. She puts her hand into the water and she smears it onto the dough. And she also has to wash her hands afterwards. So the pot, the water that she uses to wash her hands is a different pot than the water that she puts onto the dough. Ibaylo. The Gemara has a question. Avra v'lasha mahu. Let's say we said that she wasn't supposed to use warm water. She wasn't supposed to knead the dough in the sun. Let's say she did. She did use warm water. So what's the din? Marzutra Mamutter Ravashi Amarasa. It's machlekes. Marzutra says it's acceptable. Bidi Avad, right? It was done already. And Ravashi says no, it's asa. Amar Marzutra. Mina Aminala. Marzutra says, where do I know this from? The Tanya was taught in a brisa. We had this before. Ein leisus in asairim bepesach. You're not supposed to soak the barley grains on Pesach, and if you did, vimlasis, so then it makes a difference. Nispaku, if they burst open, then asurim, then it's asur. Like nispaku, if they didn't burst open, then mutar, and then it's mutar. See, if over here I used warm water, but I don't see any signs of leavening in the dough, so then it's acceptable. Just like over there, I did the wrong thing, and I don't see any signs because it didn't burst open. It's acceptable. Ravashi Amar. Ravashi says that the kulu chada mechita machtinu. What you weave everything into the same cloth. Just over there is a different story. You can't compare. Over there it didn't burst open, and that's a din with barley. Over here it's a different story. You used warm water. No, it doesn't say over here that it's acceptable. Oh, yeah. That's if it's left uncovered. Yeah. Right. I heard from my brother-in-law, Aryeh Sitcher. He said, saying over, I forget from which Rebbe, that by Tashlech, you put the Averis into the water, and then by the Mayim Shalanu, you take it back rectified. Some I don't know exactly the Torah, but there was something that 6 months later you come back and now you have water to use for them. Okay. Ve'ilu Ivrim b'Pesach. We have a new Mishnah. Ivrim, Rashi translates as transgress. Other commentators say these you have to get rid of. Ve'elu, and these is a continuation from the wastewater. We said you have to pour out the wastewater. Now, the following are also things that are a transgression on Pesach. or you have to get rid of on Pesach. Kuta Chabavli. Kuta Chabavli is a Babylonian dip. We're going to see that, we'll see the ingredients for it later, but it has in it bran, has milk in it also, has salt. V'sheichar hamadi, and median beer, very similar to our beer. Rashi is going to tell us later. Rashi is going to say that normally beer in those days was made out of dates, was made out of honey, and not barley. And the beer that was made out of barley had a name to it. It was called median beer. Chaimitza adaimi, and adaimi vinegar. Zaysim amitzri is another type of barley beer. That's Egyptian zaysim. Zuman shel tzavam is a broth of the dyers. Amelan shel tabachim is a dough of the butchers. The kailan shel seifrim, and this is a glue of the scribes, probably binders. And Rabbi Lezraim aftach shiti nashim, also jewelry, or some types of ornaments of the women. Zaklal, this is the rule. Kol shom min dagan harei zayver b'Pesach. Anything that's a type of grain has to be removed for Pesach. Harei lebazhara. These are a negative prohibition. Vein b'misham kares, but they don't have kares. Why don't they have kares? The Gemara is going to explain that it's not 100% chametz. It's a mixture of chametz, or it's not edible chametz. We'll see. Taner Rabbanan. There's three comments that were made about Kuta Chabavli. Three things that are said about it. Metamtim es halev. It clogs up the heart. Yeah, I was thinking of cholesterol, but Mesame es anayim. It blinds the eyes. Machish es haguf, and it weakens the body. Yeah. So just because they serve it at the Kiddush doesn't mean that you're supposed to eat it. Why does it clog up the heart? Mishum nesyuvi dechelba, because it has whey with an H. It has milk. It has the Milky Way. It has the whey of the milk in there, and for some reason that's not good. Okay. It blinds the eyes, mishum milcha, because there's salt, and the salt would get on the fingers, would touch the eye, would be blinding. Makrash esaguf, it weakens the body, mishum kamnisa de uma, because it has moldy flour. The bread, they would put breadcrumbs into the kuta, and the bread would become moldy. Sourdough. Yeah, but sourdough doesn't mean that it's moldy. This is the bread. Sourdough means that it's the starter. They let it sour, right? Okay. Taner Rabbanan. Taner Nebraisa. Gimel dvarim marbin hazevel. There's three things that increase the waste, the bowel movement. V'kaifen esakaima, and they also make the body bent. That means it weakens the person. It also takes away 1/500th of a person's eyesight. Yeah, they must have had a different way of measuring. Now we do 20/20 or something, whatever. They had 1/500th. That's how they would measure. Eluhain. This is the way that this is the following are these things that are the three things that cause these problems. Paskiber, coarse bread that's made from coarse flour. It's the waste of the fine flour. Sheikhar chadash, new beer. It didn't ferment all the way. The yerek chai and raw vegetables. Yeah, I guess it's a little different today. Rashi says it's leeks and onions, lettuces, if you eat a lot of it. Yeah. Taner Rabbanan, Shleisha Dvarim Ematim as a zevel. There's three things that diminish the waste, the They make less the bowel movement. And they make a person stand straight. And they're good for his eyes. And they are pasnikia, clean bread, because it means like refined flour, but we'll see in a minute. Basar shamin, fatty meat. The yayin yashin, and old wine. So now the Gemara explains pasnikia. What does it mean? Clean bread. This is good. I don't think they had a concept of whole wheat or not. They had the outer husk. Yeah, in the Pesachim it says that when you're making a bracha of hamaitzi, you're supposed to make on the white bread instead of the black bread, and that goes first. Which one is chashivas over the other one? And then in the modern Pesachim, you look up, it says, what about if you have a choice of whole wheat or white flour? And they say that doesn't matter. They when Chazal tell us that this comes first, it wasn't whole wheat or white. They didn't have that. That's where I'm getting it from. So smida is refined flour. Basar shamin, fatty meat, is ditzpirta d'le'aftach. It's a goat that didn't give birth yet. Yeah, there's other commentaries here that say it's talking about a bird that didn't lay eggs yet. But here, the tzpirta would be a goat, Rashi says, that didn't give birth. Yayin yashan, what is old wine? Atik atike. It's old, which means it's 3 years old. I guess atik would mean 1 year. Atik atike means it's 1, 2, 3. It's 3 years old. So it is 2018. Well, now it's 21, right? So, kol mili demali lahai kasha lahai. Anything that's good for this is bad for that. This is how medicine works. You take medicine. If it's good for the heart, it's bad for the eyes. If it's bad for if it's good for the eyes, it's bad for the heart. Yeah. The kasha lahai mal lahai. If it's bad for this, it's good for that. Bar, with the exception of zangvila, ginger, zangvila retiva, fresh ginger, ingver, right? Upilpali arichta, long pepper. I don't know what that means, because I don't think they call peppers. Pepper usually in the Gemara means like peppercorns, like black pepper. I'm not sure what that means. Pasnikia, fresh bread is good, and basar shamin, fat meat. The yayin yashan, and old wine. The mali lakuligufa, that's good for the whole body. Okay. Sheikh Harama, the median beer. We say the Ramu Meisari. It has in it the water of barley. Probably means malt. And Rashi over here says that they used to make the beer out of tamarim. So that's why this was unique. This was made out of barley. No, mead. Oh, that's interesting. No, med is also a date. Is a honey wine, right? Mead and med. But that's not over here. It's talking about a place. Here it's a place. Madai. Madai is like next to Persia. Parasamada. The Chaimatza Daimi is Edomite vinegar. The Shadu Beisari. They would put barley kernels into the wine. That's how they would. The vinegar was spoiled wine, but in order to get the wine to spoil, to go sour, they would have to put barley into it to get it to go sour. Amar Rav Nachman, or Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. On the side it says not to say Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Amar Rav Nachman, B'tchila k'shayim mevi'in nesachim miYehuda. In the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when the libation was brought from Yehuda, the wine that was poured on the Mizbeach, the wine in all of Yehuda, the wine in Yehuda would not go sour. If you wanted to get vinegar, you had to add things into it, to bacteria, to get it to sour, right? And that was called vinegar. And now it's not the wine of Israel, it's the French wine that doesn't go bad. the Edomite wine. Until you put into it the barley, and it's called the vinegar of Edom. This fulfills what it says in the pasuk. It's filled from the desolate. If this is built up, then that area is desolate. It's destroyed. And if this is filled up, this is built up, then that area is destroyed, which means that Edom versus Yerushalayim is like a seesaw. When this one's up, this one's down, and that's how it works. And Rab Nachman Yitzchak Mihacha Olom Olom Yamatz, like it says by Yaakov and Esav, that when this one is up, that one is down. They overpower each other, which is interesting that it's specifically about wine. Here it's like referring to the wine. When this wine is good, that wine is not good. As the Israeli wines get better, then the French and California wines go down. Israeli wines are getting better, but I don't know if yeah, someone told me that Edom is really California because the redwoods is started to grow 2,000 years ago, right when the time of the Beis Hamikdash was being destroyed. So as the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, the redwoods, Edom, which means red. Anyway, okay, I got it. So Tanya was taught in the Brisa. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Tana. Yehuda Barishaina, in the area of Yehuda. Originally, if you would buy vinegar from a regular person that wasn't trusted to take meiser, you don't have to take meiser. Even though normally, whatever you get from an amaretz, it's called demai. You have to separate meiser just in case you don't know what this person did. He wasn't trusted. So when you bought vinegar, you didn't have to be concerned. Because how did he have vinegar? It wasn't wine vinegar. It was vinegar that came from dates because their wine didn't spoil. So you didn't have to be concerned about it. But now it's a different story. Now you have to take meiser because now it probably came from wine. It comes from wine. Wine is chayav in meiser, right? You have to separate from the grain, the wine, and the oil. But does Rabbi Yehuda hold that temed dates you don't have to take meiser? Tanya or Tanan, it was taught in a Mishnah or Brisa, hametamed, someone that makes temed. So I was translating as temed as dates. It's not dates. It's wine that's made from soaking the grape peels in water. So it's it's like this dilute. It's a derivative of the date peels and the date. Of the grape peels and the grape pits. That's temed. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see.
So it's also to a nazir as well.
Is it also to a nazir? Both. It was made from both pits and skin. They would soak it.
Yossi said he asked the question the other day, would it be over both? And he said no one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was also the dregs. They would take the dregs, the bottom of the wine barrel, and they would also soak that in water. The whole thing. They would take all the waste products.
That's why he knows it's here.
Drag locks. Okay. So I'm a tamid v'nasan mayim b'mida. If you put in the same amount as these waste products, and when you're finished, you find the same amount of water. So you're exempt from taking meiser, because the water that went in, the water that is what came out. Rabbi Yehuda Machayev. Rabbi Yehuda says no. The fact is, now when you look at this water, it's changed color, and it tastes different. So he says, I know that there's no grape juice in this water, but the fact that it got the flavor and it got the color, Rabbi Yehuda holds that that's considered already wine, and therefore it's chayev in meiser. So what are you telling me, that what becomes vinegar is only temed becomes vinegar, and therefore you don't have to take meiser? But Rabbi Yehuda holds temed is chayev in meiser. Okay, scratch the date part. That was okay. Hachi kamar. This is what it means. Because that was cheaper, so the Amaretz would separate meiser from temed. They had no problem doing that. It's cheap stuff anyway, so they would separate. And so even though normally they weren't trusted to take meiser, but when it was very cheap, then they didn't mind taking meiser. They would take it. Some say that actually they were suspected, but there's not a problem because there's different types of temed. It depends. If they soak the water, if the water was left together with the dregs, that's b'deravka, then it was chayiv. But if it was left with the portini, with the pits, then it was pater. So it depends what was used to make the temet. Okay. Yeah, I think that's how it's translated. Yeah, I sat this morning with the what's it called dictionary, the gesture. The Ravka, I think we said was dregs. Let me see what it says here. Rashi says, "B'deravka shnesim b'shmarim mayim." Yeah. And okay, Zeisim Amitri. When it comes to the Zeisim, this Egyptian, it's sort of an Egyptian beer. So my Zeisim Amitri, what is this? Tana Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, Tlasa Sari, there's 1/3 is barley, Tlasa Kortami, 1/3 is safflower, but Tlasa Milcha and 1/3 is salt. It's got to be very salty. Rav Papa Mapik Sari and Mayal Chiti. Rav Papa takes out the barley and he adds in wheat. Instead of the barley, it was made with wheat. The Simanach, if you want to remember what Rabbi Yosef said and what Rav Papa said, Sisni. You think of the word Sisni. Now, Sisni has 2 samachs in it. So what that's telling me, it's a name of some sort of utensil. But what it means is that Rabbi Yosef says Sari, because the samach of Rabbi Yosef and the sin sound of Sari, of barley, is in that word, samach samach. So that's what it tells you. We don't have a simon that Rav Papa says wheat, but we have a simon that Rabbi Yosef says Sari. You're supposed to figure that out. Taralu, they would soak it. Cute. And the kalalu, and then they would toast it, or roast it. The tachnilu, they would grind it. For shasilu, and they would drink it midivchavad atzarta from Pesach until Shavuos. The kamit marpi. If a person is constipated, then it loosens up his stomach. With the rafi, and if he has a loose stomach, then makmitle, it hardens it. Yeah, it does everything, right? But if a person is ill or if it's pregnant, then this is dangerous. They say this guy, they told him they invented the thermos. So what does it do? So if you put hot in it, it stays hot. If you put cold in it, it stays cold. So he says, but how does it know? Okay, so that's what's going on. It regulates the bowel movement. Okay. The Zuman Shel Tzavaim. Zuman Shel Tzavaim. This is a broth of dyers. Hacha Tagimo. Here it was translated Maya Dechivri, that it's bran water. The Tzavi Buhu Laba. Okay, I didn't know what this is. There's another version here that is supposed to be laka. I thought it was like a lacquer, like a dye, like a paint, but actually, apparently it means a leather. It's a bran water that was used to to paint the leather red. Yeah, where did I see that? The Tabu La Sarka. I think I saw it in the Jastra. Okay. Or maybe I saw that in the Steinsaltz. Yeah, I don't even see. Rashi just gives me a French word. Sarka. Amilan shel tabachim is this dough of the butcher, chulu, etc. Pas tvua, this is talking about a bread that's made from grain, shalehi via shlish, that was not grown 1/3. That means the unripe grain was used in this bread. Sheminich al pia kadera, they would put this over the pot, v'sheyeva sesa zuama, and it would absorb some sort of smell or something from whatever was being cooked. I don't know if we have such a thing now. We use it to absorb the moisture. We do other things today. Sometimes certain things you put in the oven, and you put a pot of water in the oven as well to make it more, I don't know, certain breads you do that. This is the opposite. This is something that you put there to take away the moisture.
In salt bread, right? Like, for example, if you're eating meat, put a thing of salt on it.
Kailan shel seifrim is the glue of the scribes, probably bookbinders. Pachir Tagimo, here it's translated Perura de Ashkefi. It's a paste of the shoemakers. Rav Simi Mechuzna says, he says, Zetipulan shel b'nai sashirim. This is the, what's it called that takes off the hair? Depilatory. It's a depilatory of the rich girls. Shemeshayr seisel b'nai saniyim, what they leave over for the poor girls to use. I guess they used the better stuff, and this they left over for the poor girls to use. Aini, is that really so? Vatani Rabchia, there's a little bit of an issue here. How are we getting seifrim? What with the word seifrim? What the scribes? What it means is that's the daughters of the scribes that are poor. Seifrim could be teachers or scribes. They made the teachers would have to make the ABCDms. Right, the ABCD. So they would have to write that for them. The problem is that if you look back in our Mishnah says a bunch of types of foods that come from different places. It was just in this coffee shop in Lakewood, where they give you they said you can get a Yemen coffee, Italian coffee, each one is from specific locations. So here, this Mishnah tells me you can get the Babylonian kutach, the Median beer, the Edomite vinegar. You can get the Egyptian barley beer. Okay, those were 4 locations, and then it went on to give us several jobs, occupations. It says the dyer's broth, the butcher's dough, and the glue of the seifrim. Yeah. Now, or some sort of paste, right? So Rab Chia says, Vatani Rab Chia, Arba Mina Medina. There's 4 locations that are said in our Mishnah. Notice he summarizes the Mishnah to help you remember it. And there's 3 types of occupations. Now, if you say seifrin is not referring to an occupation, it's referring to the daughters that they're poor, and it was just given to them as a, what's it called again? The depilatory to get to remove their hair. Then it's not what the seifrim use. It's just what's given to the daughters of them for them to use. How could you tell me that the seifrim over here doesn't mean an occupation? My minium nasikas. What are you telling me? It's a type of occupation. Elamai. Rather, we'll go to our first shot where we said it's the paste of the shoemakers. So my karle high kailin shel seifrim. So why do you call it the glue of the scribes? Really, kailin shel ratzanami bailei should be the glue of the tanners or something. Rav Ashi says, really, it is the paste of the shoemakers. But my why do we call it the paste of the scribes? The sefer nami medapkibu nayoreseyem. The scribes also used it. So why do we? I don't know why we specifically use that word if they both use it. Anyway, that's the name. Rashi has the French word for glue, glued. Just with the D sound at the end. But a lot of sounds at the end of words would drop because you wouldn't hear it when it's pronounced. Glued. It sounds like glue. Right? That's the languages for yeah, difficult sounds at the end of words were for sure dropped. The ch sounds at the end of words. Although, right? Although that fell off. Now we're left with although. Rabbi Lezer says also the jewelry of the women is also chametz. Tachshiti nashim sal kedaitach. Jewelry is chametz. Jewelry. It doesn't have to be jewelry. It could also be makeup, the ornaments. Ela ema af tipulei nashim. It doesn't mean. It doesn't mean the jewelry or the makeup. What it means is the dough that was used as a depilatory to remove the hair. They would put it on them and take it off. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish girls, Shegiul Perkan V'Legiul Shanim. They reached maturity, but then they didn't reach the age of maturity. That means that they're growing hair, but they're young. They want to remove that hair. Some say it was the other way. It was, as we're going to see, this makes the skin look different. They reach the age of maturity, but they weren't mature yet. And you would put this on, and somehow when you would take it off, it would make the skin look redder or something, which would make them look older. B'nai Saniyim, so the young girl, the girls of the poor, Taiflas Eisem Basid, they would use plaster. B'nai Sashirim, but the rich girls, then Taiflas Eisem Basailas, they would use flour, like a type of dough, and that would take off the hair. B'nai Malachim, if it's the princesses, they would use b'shemen amar with oil with mir mixed in. Myrrh oil. Shenemar shisha chadashim b'shemen amar. 6 months, Esther or the girls over there for Achashverosh, they had to sit in myrrh oil till they were probably what's it called when the waterlogged when they come out of the bath. So, but I always thought that shemen amar was not for the skin. I thought it was a disinfectant. I think myrrh is a disinfectant. Yeah. My shemen amar. What is shemen amar? Rav Huna bar Yirmiyah amar satkes. It's satkes. Rashi says leyaspar. She doesn't know what it is. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba amar shemen zayir shleiv shlish. Talking about it's an olive oil that the olives were not a third aged, were not matured more than a third. Just 1/3, reach 1/3 of their maturity. So it must have been more sharp, and it would be used to remove the hair. Rabbi Yirmiyah, okay, that we had. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Imar was taught in a brayso. Rabbi Yehuda says, on piknin. What is on piknin? Shemen zayir shleiv shlish. It's olive oil that wasn't matured more than a third. It was the olives weren't matured more than a third. I say, why would they put this on? It pampers the flesh, it removes the hair. So it could be used for either to remove the hair or for, especially the other pshat, it says that it was the opposite. They were mature, but they didn't look mature. They would use it to make the flesh look okay. Yeah.
But this is obviously was all a sidebar to the Gemara, and then it's going to go back. Well, why does Gemara spend so many lines on the cosmetics women uses? I mean, it's halachically what they happen to be using, whether it's A, B, or C. has nothing to do with the topic at hand.
All right. Let's learn one more Gemara and we'll ask the question again. Dr. Stein is asking, why is it so significant to have these ingredients for cosmetics? Let's see. Zaklal, here's the rule. Kol shemi min dagan, anything that's a type of grain. Tanya, we started in the Brayso from Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says, kol shemi min dagan. If the Mishnah just tells me anything that's a type of grain, this is a violation on Pesach. So why do you have to go through all the list? Why do you have to say this, that, and the other thing, right? So that you should know what they are and in their names. Yeah, I have a friend that was a rabbi. He wanted to open up a kashrus organization, which apparently it's a good business. So, so he said, "Yeah, I'm a rabbi. I'll open it up." Anyway, he happened to be in a bungalow colony with Rabbi Levy from the OK. So Rabbi Levy heard that he was going to open up, so he says, "Come into my office." He comes in, he looks on the computer, he says, "You know what this is?" He says, "No." He says, "That's a type of milk." "Do you know what this is?" He shows him another word. He says, "That's another type of milk." There's 100 words here that all are milk, but they don't say milk. They have, whatever, lactose or things. So all of these things are milchik. So you don't know what you're getting into. So anyway.
So did he open it?
He didn't open it up. So here, so we're telling you these things so that you should know what's really going on. Not to be over on the chametz. It's nothing. It's just glue. It's just it's beer. It's not right. Kiha dahu bar marava, like this person from Eretz Yisrael. Ikla labavel. He comes to Bavel. Have a bisher ba'adei. He had meat with him. Amalu krivali mitchilta. Says, "Bring me a dip. I want to put it on my meat." Shama de kamrele krivale kutach. He heard that they were saying. He heard them over the waiter. He heard them saying, "Give him some kutach," which is a dip. Give him the shama kutach, but he knew what kutach was. In Eretz Yisrael, they didn't eat kutach, but he knew what it was, probably because he learned the Mishnah. And pirish, then he didn't eat it because he had meat, and kutach has way of milk. So he knew it was milchik, so he didn't eat it. Okay, let's leave the Gemara here for today. The next sugya is a nice long sugya, nice.